One of the many merits of the excellent conversation I had yesterday with President-elect Joe Biden was that we were strongly agreed on the need for the United Kingdom and the United States to stand together, to stick up for our values around the world, to stick up for human rights, to stick up for global free trade, to stick up for NATO, Mr. Speaker, and to work together in the fight against climate change, Mr. Speaker. And it was refreshing, I may say, to have that conversation. I look forward to many more.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister spoke for many of us when he took a call yesterday to congratulate President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris on their emphatic win in the US presidential election. So does the Prime Minister now have any advice for his erstwhile best friend, President Trump, whose continuing refusal to accept the result is both embarrassing for him and dangerous for American democracy?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I had and have a good relationship with the previous president. I do not resile from that. This is the duty of all British Prime Ministers to have a good relationship with the White House. But I'm delighted to find the many areas in which the incoming Biden-Harris administration is able to make common cause with us. In particular, it was extremely exciting to talk to President-elect Biden about what he wants to do with the COP26 summit next year, Mr. Speaker, in which, as you know, the UK is leading the world in driving down carbon emissions and tackling climate change.
When even Boris Johnson, one of Trump's closest allies, is publicly congratulating Joe Biden as the president-elect, it only makes Trump's denial of reality look all the more ridiculous. And that's a feat in and of itself, considering Joe Biden is now leading Trump by more than 5 million votes in the popular vote and is likely to secure 306 electoral votes in the Electoral College. All of that is to say, Donald Trump lost this election, period. Consider, too, which world leaders have congratulated Joe Biden thus far. Canada's Justin Trudeau, Germany's Angela Merkel, France's Emmanuel Macron, Ireland's Michael Martin, even Israel's Bibi Netanyahu. But just for fun, let's consider which world leaders have refused to congratulate Biden. Russia's Vladimir Putin, North Korea's Kim Jong-un, Brazil's Bolsonaro, even China's Xi Jinping. Do you notice a trend? Of course, despite the fact that even those all around the world are capable of acknowledging reality, this is the messaging coming out of the White House right now.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment. If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. If you count the votes that came in late, we're looking at them very strongly, but a lot of votes came in late. I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. To name just a few, we won these and many other victories despite historic election interference from big media, big money, and big tech.
Is the State Department currently preparing to engage with the Biden transition team? And if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration.
Here's the thing, these delusions by the Republican Party are not only absurd, but dangerous. The fact is that refusing to acknowledge that Biden won this election won't change the results, but it does endanger the American people if Joe Biden isn't given the access he needs to begin building out his administration, especially when it comes to making sure that he's ready to take over with regard to national security and defense. This is not something that an administration can throw together at the last minute, meaning that by virtue of delaying the inevitable because Trump is having an ego trip, the people who stand to be impacted by this are us. And yet that hasn't stopped these Republicans from playing pretend and humoring Donald Trump's delusions. This should tell you that despite what platitudes they spout, it isn't about keeping the American people safe, considering what they're doing right now, and showing our enemies just how fragile and ripe for exploitation our system is. It's only serving to put us at increased risk. All because Trump is too thin-skinned to accept the reality that he lost this race. And to think, the GOP actually considers itself the party of personal responsibility. There are a number of reasons why the GOP is doing what they're doing right now. The first, of course, is money. It's so that Trump can continue peppering his supporters with emails demanding funding for his election defense fund. Why? Because this entire presidency has been predicated on squeezing as much money out of his supporters as is humanly possible. And so now, with the end in sight, of course Trump would be leveraging one final large-scale effort to pilfer his supporters one last time. The second reason is Trump's ego. He's predicated his entire presidency on winning, and so for him to admit defeat would be him acknowledging that he's become the very thing that he's groomed his supporters to hate the most, a loser. And so rather than simply acknowledge that he lost, Trump is going to cry foul and pretend that there was fraud. Not because there actually was any fraud, but because his extremely delicate ego doesn't give him any other option. And finally, the last reason is that Trump and his mouthpieces may very well be looking to cling on to power, to stage some type of a coup, however egregiously misguided that is. We've already seen just how unwilling the GOP is to abide by any semblance of the rule of law. They will happily rewrite the rules if it means they can tighten their grip on power. And so faced with the possibility that they might actually have to heed the will of the American people and accept the results of an election that they lost, it wouldn't be surprising if Trump was trying to hold on to power by extra legal measures. While that doomed effort would be un-American, it wouldn't at all be surprising for a president who has no regard for the laws of the country he's supposed to be presiding over. So I would just say this, whether it's money or ego or some misguided effort to seize power, he won't be successful. The states will finish counting the votes and those results will be certified, all of which Donald Trump has zero control over. Meaning that no matter how much he pounds his fist or stomps his feet or complains on Twitter, he's gonna leave office on January 20th. And he'll do it either willingly or he'll give some Secret Service officer the privilege of giving the entire world the image that we've been waiting for as he gets dragged out of the White House. So regardless of how long Trump continues to live in this alternate plane of reality, the rest of the world is moving on. World leaders have recognized Joe Biden as the next president, the American people recognize Joe Biden as the next president, and even Trump's own staff are privately acknowledging that this is the end of the road. The only person left in this state of delusion, growing more and more pathetic by the day, is Donald Trump. If you like this video, please check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deep dive into the week's most important stories and interview major players in politics, including Kamala Harris, Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Eric Swalwell, Mary Trump, Al Franken, Cory Booker, and many, many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.